Good morning, and we are still in 107, and we're in verse 58. And we're going to talk a little bit more about um, how people preside and what their duties are as far as presiding over um, these priesthood uh, holders, holders of the priesthood. It is the duty of the 12 to ordain and set in order all other officers of the church agreeable to the revelation, which says, to the church of Jesus, of Church of Christ in the land of Zion, in addition to the church laws respecting church business, verily I say unto you, saith the Lord of hosts, there must needs be presiding elders to preside over those who are of the office of an elder, and also priests to preside over those who were of the office of priest, and also teachers to preside over those who are of the office of a teacher. In like manner, also the deacons. So we get these presidents, those that preside over these quorums. And in our day, we see that with in the Aaronic priesthood and the Melchizedek priesthood, we've got presidents. So who's the president over the elders quorum? We've got one in the ward, and then we have a president of the priests quorum, and we've got a president of the teachers quorum and the deacons quorum. Each one of these holding uh, keys to what they need to do in the ward. Wherefore, from deacon to teacher, and from teacher to priest, from priest to elder, severally as they are appointed, according to the covenants and commandments of the church. Then comes the high priesthood, which is the greatest of all. It's interesting that they put the high priesthood different than the elders' quorum. So this is high priest usually, but also wherefore it must needs be, if we just read on here, wherefore it must needs be that one be appointed of the high priesthood to preside over the priesthood. In other words, here's the high priest and the high priesthood, and they are to preside over the priesthood, and he shall be called the president of the high priesthood of the church. Uh, and that's the president of the church, as we call him now. Or, in other words, the presiding high priest over the high priesthood of the church. Um, and I don't want to be too bold, but this also can be um, the priest, the although this is talking, seems to be talking about the prophet or president of the church. It also, if you're in a stake, you've got a presiding high priest over that priesthood of the church or high priests of the church, and that is the um, stake president. He presides over the high priests of the church, and as such, he has a quorum of high priests that meet with him, uh, and these high priests will then go out and work within the stake. And we see that in this organization that they're starting here with the stake of Zion, or the Kirtland stake of Zion, and Zion itself being organized with a high priest, the high priesthood, but not the one over all the church, which is the president of the church. But they do have a high priest over that, and the elders' quorum in the wards has people who have been um, ordained high priests, but when they are not in a calling that's appointed to high priest duties, like uh, in the high priest quorum, then they are in the elders quorum, and we all mix together. This is something that has happened more recently, where they've taken the high priest and the elders and put them together, saying, you know what, you're all the same, really, at this point. Only when you've got callings that call you to the high priesthood um, callings, um, the high priest quorum in the stake, and so forth, then you are in that quorum. Um, from the same comes the administering of ordinances, the blessings upon the church by the laying on of hands. Wherefore the office of a bishop is not equal unto it. The office of the bishop is in administering all temporal things. Nevertheless, the bishop must be chosen from the high priesthood, unless he is a literal descendant of Aaron. It seems that this calling of bishop for the descendant of Aaron is that he doesn't need to hold the high priesthood to hold that calling, but he would need he would have the priesthood and calling of the bishop. For unless he is the literal descendant of Aaron, he cannot hold the keys of the priesthood of that priesthood. Nevertheless, the high priest that is after the order of Melchizedek may be set apart unto the ministering of the temporal things, having a knowledge of them by the Spirit of truth. Um, in this sense, we're talking about that he receives those blessings and those keys because he is after the order of Melchizedek, not because um, he's a literal descendant, um, but because he has that priesthood that will be able to do that as he's set apart, and also to be a judge in Israel. This is talking about bishop, and so whoever is called to be bishop, this is what they have. They have um, ministering in temporal things, to be a judge in Israel, to do the business of the church, to sit in judgment upon transgressors, upon testimony as shall be laid before him according to the laws, by the assistance of his counselors, whom he has chosen, who will choose among the elders of the church. This is the duty of the bishop, who is not a literal descendant of Aaron, but has been ordained to the high priesthood after the order of Melchizedek. And thus shall he be a judge, even a common judge, among the inhabitants of Zion, or in a stake of Zion, or in any branch of the church where he shall be set apart unto this ministry, until the borders of Zion are enlarged and it becomes necessary to have other bishops or judges in Zion elsewhere. So here's quite interesting that we've got this to be a judge, even a common judge among the inhabitants. Um, and he set us apart for this ministry in a certain area, but when it gets so big, we need more bishops. So we've already got this idea that bishops will be called. other bishops. We've got two in the church so far. There will be others. Inasmuch as there are other bishops appointed, they shall act in the same office. But a literal descendant of Aaron has a legal right to the presidency of this priesthood, to the keys of this ministry, to act in the office of bishop independently without counselors. One of the points here that was pointed out is, in one discussion, was that we're talking about the acting bishop of the church more than we are talking about, um, which is a general authority, general bishop, rather than any specific ward. Um, and then it says, so he's got the right to the keys of the ministry, except in a case where the president of the high priesthood, after the order of Melchizedek, is tried to sit as a judge in Israel. Um, the decision of either of these councils agreeable to the commandment which says, again, verily I say unto you, the most important business of the church and the most difficult cases of the church, inasmuch as there is not satisfaction upon the decision of the bishop or judges, it shall be handed over and carried up to the council of the church before the presidency of the high priesthood. And the presidency of the council of the high priesthood shall have power to call other high priests, even 12, to assist as counselors, and thus the presidency of the high priesthood and its counselors shall have power to decide upon testimony according to the laws of the church. So we'll end it there today. Basically, I always wonder if we could have just left out all this about Aaron and his legal right. I don't know of anybody that has claimed it like that, or tried to claim that they're a literal descendant of Aaron and that they have a legal right. I don't know anybody that want to say, "Hey, I should be bishop." Um, it's if they do, it's the ones that really have not put their lives in order to be bishop and do not understand the calling. Um, it's not an easy thing to be a bishop, but it's interesting that the Lord wants us to know that there was a certain um, lineage here, a descendant of Aaron, um, that this followed, just like there was a lineage with the patriarchs of the church that we talked about yesterday. But at the same time, the Lord has provisions for his saints to do what they need to do regardless of that. And that the president of the high priesthood um, has the ability to, um, and the keys of all the offices to be able to do what needs to be done in the church. And without him, um, then it goes to the 12 and so forth. But um, this is really making a very, it might seem like a lot of just, um, maybe you might even call legal terms or administration type of things, and you're going, oh, not again. But when you look at it, what it's doing is saying, let's do a foundation. Let's make a foundation that's really strong. And what's the main part of the foundation? The cornerstone. What's the cornerstone? The cornerstone is Jesus Christ. And then once we've got a cornerstone in, we build the rest of the foundation on apostles and prophets who build that up. And once we got those apostles and prophets, what do we put on there? Well, we can put um, the 70s and the stake presidents and the bishops and the Aaronic priesthood presidents, all of these building up this firm foundation and walls and roof on this building. And what goes into the building? The members. And what happens when you have a firm building? What can it do? It can protect and it can house and it can comfort and it can be a refuge from the storm. All of these things. And this is what's happening with the church now. In 1835, is they are saying we are building the walls so that when the buffeting of the adversary comes, the saints will be safe inside. And I think that's a really great thing, and I hope you can feel that while we're reading this and understand that it's, even though it sounds like a lot of technical stuff, it's building that strength. And I hope you can see the strength and feel that comfort in your lives. Um, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.